We are going to begin our circle weaving. So what I have for you here is a piece of cardboard and a circle stencil, and notice it has marks around the edge of it. So what you want to do is lay this down onto your cardboard, and you want to trace it. And I know it's super tight because I cut them to be the size that I need. But what I want you to do here is I want you to go around and keep the stencil in the same spot, and I want you to go around and mark where these little marks are. So I'm going to use a pen here so you can see it on the screen. So do the ones you can do easily first, and I'm drawing directly. Okay, so what you should see here is my circle and then all my little marks. And I'm going to make these marks go into the circle. So I'm just going to extend them to make them a little longer like that. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So when I cut the circle out, I can still see them. Okay, now before we cut it out, we want to count to make sure we have the right amount of little marks, okay? So you need to have an odd number. So I'm going to just kind of put my thumb here to make sure I know this is the one I start at. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, 13 is an odd number, so I am good. Make sure you have 13 around, and then you want to cut this out. Okay, so I cut it out, recycle your scraps, and then you should be able to still see your little marks. And you want to take your scissors and you want to cut into those little marks, but you don't want to cut really far into the circle. Just a little bit, just about the same length as the marks that you made. So about 1/2 inch, maybe even 1/4 inch. Alright, so from here you're going to need a ruler, and you're going to mark the center of this circle. So I tried to make the circles 5 inches. So I'm going to lay it in front of me. I'm going to put the ruler on one side. So 1/2 of 5 is 2 1/2, so I'm going to go 2 and then to the 1/2 mark, right in between the 2 and the 3, and I'm going to make a little dot. And I'm going to do it the other way as well to make sure I'm still in the center. I'm a little off. Okay, so there we go. So there's my center. And now I need to poke a hole in that center. So I will give you guys, these are just paper clips. I need these back because these can be dangerous. So I need to have all these back. But I've unraveled them, and you're going to just poke a hole with the front of it. Pretty easy. Just hang onto your cardboard and then press. The cardboard isn't too thick. And then I like to swirl it around a little bit just to make the hole a little larger. Pull it out and then give it to the next person. Okay? Here, you want to decorate this circle. And you can choose your media. I'm going to choose markers. But I want you to know that when we're doing this, we're not going to see a lot of the decoration that's near the center. It's mainly going to be around the edges. So you really want to focus more on the edge of the piece. And you can decorate this however you want to decorate this. So you can just make circle design. You can do fun patterns, like I have these cards. You know, and you can make patterns throughout the whole thing. And these are fun because they tell you how to make them on the back. It's up to you, any pattern you want. I love making patterns because I feel there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever design you like. Okay, so you want to take the time to decorate your loom here. Normally we don't decorate the looms because we take the weaving off the loom. But in this case, we're going to leave it on the loom. We're not going to ever take it off. So we want the loom to look pretty. So So this is something called a radial design that I'm creating here. A radial design means it's a design that goes around a center point and it is symmetrical. So if I cut this in half, the design is going to be the same on both sides. If I cut it in half this way, it'll be the same on both sides. Even if I cut it diagonally, it'll be pretty much the same on both sides. So that's called radial design. And these are really fun to make, because I feel you can just go on and on and on with these. So take your time, make it pretty. But remember, just kind of focus on the outside. Don't really worry about that inside. And the colors aren't going to show up just as we think they will, because the cardboard is a brown color. It's not a white like we're used to with paper. So the colors might not be as bright, but they're still going to look nice. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. What I want you to notice in my design, though, I limited my color palette, so I just used black, green, violet, and red. So 4 colors, that was it. I didn't go crazy with the rainbow. I wanted it to have a little bit of a focus. And I left a little bit of open space. That's called your negative space, letting that shine through. Notice how I didn't go further in, because I'm just going to leave that, because that's going to get covered up with the yarn. Okay. The next step is to begin setting up this loom with the warp string. So you guys will need a needle, and you guys will need a little piece of warp string. So I'll cut these for you and just hand them out. And you want to unravel it, make sure there's no knots. And you're going to put the warp string through the eye of the needle. So I like to lay the needle kind of on the string and then pull the string through. And you want to pull it through just a little bit, like that. So you have one little short piece and the rest is very long. And you're going to lift up your loom and you're going to go through the hole that you poked in the center. Come up to the top. So I come from the back through the top, and you want to pull. Now, you don't want to pull all the way through, because that would be silly. You want to pull through so you just have a little bit hanging off the back, like that. Okay, and then you want to hold that. So we're not tying a knot. Normally we tie a knot to stop us. We're just going to hold it. And you're going to take this warp string and you're going to find one of those little cuts that you made. And you're going to put it through that cut. Then you're going to take your needle and you're going to come back through the center from the back to the front. And then pull. And now it's going to feel a little bit like sewing. Okay? Make sure you're always hanging on to this back here. So you want to do that again, but go to the next little cut that you made. The little tooth. And then come back through the center and pull. And you keep going around the loom. Okay, so here, this is my last one, so again, you'll watch me here. I go through, it's my last one, now you can take it off of your needle. And you want to take that little piece that you had at the beginning that you were hanging on to, plus this piece now that you just went through, and you want to tie these into a knot. So you're going to crisscross, tuck under, pull, and if you need to, ask a friend, or if you can do it, you want to hold that down, crisscross, tuck under, pull. Same thing again. Make sure it's in a nice knot, and then you can trim off the excess thread. Okay, so now your loom is set up, you have your warp strings ready to go, and we can start weaving with the yarn, doing the over-under pattern, and that is called the weft string. Okay, so now that I have my loom decorated and it is set up with the warp string, now I can begin the weaving process. So you're going to need a needle, some yarn, and you want to put the yarn through the needle and pull through just a little bit. So you have a little bit hanging off, and then you have a longer piece. The longer piece is what you will weave with. Okay, so I have my length, it's about the length from my neck to the tippy toe of my fingers, so that's about as much thread as I got. And you want to start the weaving process, a tabby weave, so over, under, or it could be under, over, depending on how you're going to start. I'm actually going to start under first, so I'm going to pick where I'm going to start, and I'm going to go under with my needle. So I go under, under. You can see that needle is under this warp string. And then I'm going to put the needle over the next one, and then under the next one. And then I will pull through. And you want to leave a little bit hanging. We'll tuck this in later. So just let it hang. So you don't want to pull through all the way. So see where you ended. So I ended under here. So I'm going to go over here. Over, under, over, under, and then I have to pull through. You kind of have to do it in sections. You can't go all the way around one time. So you pull that through. Okay, I ended under, so I'll start over, under, over, under, over, under, and pull through. Alright, so once you kind of gone around once, you just want to make sure your string is tight to the center. There, okay? And then you want to keep going. So I ended under, so I go over, under, and you just keep repeating that process. Pull through, see where you end up. I ended over, so I got to start under. So it's a constant just turning of the loom, weaving over, under, under. And you do this until your thread runs out. You always want to make sure you're pushing it tight towards the center. Okay, so I've gone around and I know I'm going to need to switch colors. So I'm just going to slide this off the needle, and this little part that's hanging here, what we can do is we can tuck that in. So I'm going to try with my needle to tuck it through the little hole in the opening, and then try to pull it through from the back. Might take a few tries. So I got that tucked away. Now if I want to switch colors, what you can do is you can tie a knot. So I have my new color. Here it's like a dark blue. And you can crisscross, tuck under, crisscross, tuck under, and pull. And you've made a knot there. And then I like to trim off the little ears on either side. Okay, and now it is all connected, and you can put that yarn through the needle and carry on with your sewing. Pay attention to where you ended up, over or under, and then you just move on. Now that knot might give you a little bit of trouble. Just get through it. So what I'm doing here is I'm undoing some of the weaving that I've done because I noticed I made a mistake. So what I do is I just undo it, and then I'm going to pick up where I noticed the mistake to make sure it's right. So I noticed that I was doing like under too many times. So that means I got it wrong. So it should always be like under and then over the next time around, and then under and then over the next time around. So I know I made a mistake. And I'm taking the time to fix my mistake. Right here, there's the culprit. I went over twice. If you see that red, I went over it twice. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to fix my mistake. Okay, so I'm a little further, so I think I'll do a few more rounds, but you'll notice you'll need a little bit longer of a string if you want a bigger section of color. So this blue was the same length as my red, but if you notice, the red looks like it covers more of the space. It's because the red is tighter. It only had to go around in a tiny circle, where the blue is going around in a bigger circle. So my next color, I'm going to need a little more yarn. So you want to pick out your next color, and you want to do it the same sort of technique. Tie it in a knot with the previous color. And then thread the needle and keep going over, under, over, under. Okay, so I've gotten pretty far with my weaving here. I've decided that I think I'm going to stop at this point so I can still see the decoration around the border. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave as far as I can. And then I'm going to kind of just slide the needle a little further down, and then I'm just going to pull the needle off, and you're going to see there's your little piece, and you just want to tuck it under like that. And we never take this off the loom. This entire thing is the artwork. So what I want to show you here is, you can tell where I tied the two colors together, it's a little bulky. It's kind of popping up a little bit, so you can use your needle and you can try to tuck that in behind some of the threads that you've woven. So it's just not as bulky, it's sticking out. Okay, so I just use my needle, press and tuck. Just try and get it down, because otherwise it's a little distracting and it takes away from the beauty of the smooth yarn that you've woven. Tucked in. There we go. Here we go. Okay, so this is your circle weaving. You created a radial design and you did a tabby weave all the way around.